Okay, welcome. This is a 7-week course on parenting without regrets. I like that concept because when you're in the midst of parenting, most of the time you have no idea how it's going to turn out and you're operating out of fear. What if I mess up? And by the time we know we messed up, it's too late to fix it. So we're going to look at how do you fix it before you mess it up. That's our purpose for 7 weeks.
I think that we're going to start by actually talking about what your perceptions of the scriptures are on parenting, and talking about why that would be an important thing and what you know about that. Now, most of you in this room know each other, or at least know some of you. But we're going to make sure before we're through that everybody pretty well knows each other. Because Alan and I have been teaching too long, and so we don't do static stuff. So, are you going to speak?
Yeah, but I heard a noise.
Oh, okay. I was like, there's one more.
Okay, so now we're at 19.
All right.
So,
Still do what you said.
okay, those would be big groups.
5?
No.
Just do 5. Do 5 in a group.
Okay, we're going to divide up into 4 groups.
Oh, okay.
See, the problem is we have 19 in here. So 5 doesn't divide into 19.
Okay.
You have remainders.
Yeah.
I never in school figured out what do you do with a remainder. You got to write it over to the side, right?
No.
No, we sing.
So we will have, and people will keep coming in, so it'll actually keep getting bigger. We're going to break up into 4 groups, roughly 5 people in a group, although one group will probably have 4, but it's the responsibility of the group that has 4 to grab the next person that comes in and say, hey, sit with us. Y'all clear on that? If you don't do that, this won't work. And then your question in the group to pool your Bible knowledge and figure out what does the Bible say about parenting. So hopefully that's coming up in your head right now. You're like, oh yeah, there's this verse, and there's this verse. And I've got all the answers. So once we've finished, I can pull out the list of all the verses in the Bible that talk about parenting. So if you miss some, we'll cover that.
Understand?
Understand.
All right.
Go.
Go. Get in groups. It's that move part. Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So I got vaguely 11, 12, 5, and 6.
Okay. Give us some of them. Give us some of these vague ones back here.
What's the best one?
Training the child.
Train a child.
Proverbs 22:6.
There you go. Proverbs 22:6?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, this group. What's your favorite one? Can't use the one they just used.
Colossians 3:21. Do not provoke your children.
Colossians
3:21.
21, and that's don't provoke.
Don't provoke. Okay. This group. What's your favorite one?
My group.
No, you don't want mine.
Still have to do the
I like the the Proverbs one, but Deuteronomy 6:7 is good. You shall teach them diligently to your children and talk of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way and when you lie down.
Okay.
Teach.
Deuteronomy 6:7. What's y'all's favorite one that you found?
Actually, not favorite.
Ephesians 6:4.
What?
Ephesians 6:4.
Ephesians 6:4.
Don't exasperate your children.
Okay. Can we define exasperate?
It's my not favorite.
That's Kevin's least favorite. It's his least
Yeah, we never agreed on the meaning of exasperate.
Basically what he did. It's what we kept saying, don't do that. That's why it wasn't.
I don't know if it's a good interpretation, but I think of it as like, kids have there's certain logic, so we're more wiser than they are. So I can come to my kids and kind of argue a point to them that they can't grasp the argument. So
Exactly.
I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to lead them. I'm not trying to win an argument. That's what I think. I might be wrong, but that's always interpreted that way.
I think that's an excellent interpretation.
So that's why mamas get away with saying because I said so. So they're not exasperating. That used to drive me nuts when I was a kid. Well, why did you say so? That makes no sense to me. Okay, any group, something else that you think is one of your favorites that hasn't been named yet.
Proverbs 13:24.
Read it.
The
Says-
blurb that I typed was whoever spares the rod hates their children.
It's 13 what?
24.
Spare the rod, spoil the child is the way that's quoted a lot. Y'all, I heard y'all say that one right there. You didn't say Proverbs, but I heard you say that.
Harding was a long time ago. Let's be honest.
There are actually 15 that actually speak to parenting. And so we got some really good ones there going because you hit some of the core, but there are 15. You want to read just the references? You
And
don't
I'm
read
going to
them.
read to them what they have, but I will tell you, I personally find it very frustrating that out of a really thick Bible, you only come up with 15 specific parenting passages. Now, there's lots of passages that talk about general characteristics of parents. But on parenting, your guidance on how to parent, there's not much. This is what I found. Exodus 20:12, honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Deuteronomy 6:6-9. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. Psalm 78, verses 1-7. My people hear my teaching. Listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things, things from of old, things we have heard and known, things our ancestors have told us. We will not hide them from our descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power, and the wonders he has done. He decreed statutes for Jacob and established the law in Israel, which he commanded our ancestors to teach their children, so the next generation would know them, even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. Then they will put their trust in God and would not forget his deeds, but would keep his commands. Psalms 127, 3-5. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court. I don't understand that part. Is that because your kids go to court with you and threaten to beat up the judge? I've never understood that one. Proverbs 1, 8-9. Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck. Proverbs 3, 11-12. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves as a father, the son he delights in. Proverbs 13:24. Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. Proverbs 22:6. Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. Okay, a lot of people quote that one. You gotta pay attention to the second part of it. Even when they're old, they will not turn from it. Doesn't talk about the late teens, 20s, where they go out and experiment with the ways of the world, and then by the time they're 30, come back, which is what lots of people do. So do not give up on your kids or decide that you're a failure as a parent until they're 30. And then if they're all messed up, you can say, oh, I blew it. Okay. But until then, you know,
No,
this
then
is
it's their
saying when
fault.
they're old, they will not depart from it. Proverbs 29:15, a rod and a reprimand impart wisdom, but a child left undisciplined disgraces its mother. Proverbs 29:17, discipline your children and they will give you peace. They will bring you the delights you desire. You know, you get the idea that Solomon was one of these grouchy old guys that in restaurants are like, I wish they control their kids. You know, he's always wanting the poor kids beat. Okay, Colossians 3:21.
Stop. Got a question?
What was the Proverbs before the one you just said?
There's Proverbs 29:15 and then Proverbs 29:17. So he's got two right there together.
Okay, thank you. You continue.
And then Colossians 3:21, somebody quoted.
That one.
Yeah, I don't like that one either. Fathers, do not embitter your children or they will become discouraged. Okay, define embitter. And how do I not do that? So some of these just make me want to know more. Although if you read Colossians, the 3rd chapter, there is explanations in there on how we're supposed to be acting as Christians, and then one of the applications is to fathers in the way they treat their children. Ephesians 6:1-3, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy a long life on earth. Ephesians 6:4, fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Hebrews 12:7-11, endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as his children. For what children are not disciplined by their father? If you're not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, then you're not legitimate, not true sons and daughters at all. Moreover, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of spirits and live? They disciplined us for a little while as they thought best. God disciplines us for our good, in order that we may share in his holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. 2 Timothy 3:14-16. But as for you, continue in what you have learned and have become convinced of, because you know those from whom you learned it, and how from infancy you've known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Christ Jesus. All Scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. These are the passages I found that seem to specifically deal with parenting, although 3 of them dealt with it from the children's standpoint. Pay attention to your parents' attempt to parent you. So if you take out those 3 that look at what the kids are supposed to do, then when we just focus on what the parents are supposed to do, now we're down to 12.
I like that very first scripture that you,
Exodus 20:12.
Exodus 20, okay. Thank you.
And of these passages, they naturally break down into certain basic instructions. 1, dealing with communication, the importance of communication. 2, dealing with the importance of discipline. And 3, dealing with the purpose of communication and discipline. So all 3 of them kind of break down into those areas right there. There's interesting research on communication that
Brain just died. Communication discipline.
Purpose.
Okay.
Purpose.
Oh, yeah, that thing that we're gonna talk about.
Yeah. We may come back and talk about this again in another lesson, or we may not. So I'm throwing it out tonight in case we don't get back to it.
This is bonus, is what you're saying, maybe?
It's sort of important, and I don't really have it worked in our lesson plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so theoretically,
Got your notes out?
when a parent communicates with their children, soft communication, empowering communication, encouraging communication is supposed to have better results, in theory. Research does not support that. What research supports is that the parents who spend a lot of time communicating with their kids, even if it's yelling at them, have better outcomes from their kids than parents who spend very little time communicating with their kids, even if that little bit of communication is very encouraging. So it's actually quantity of communication over quality of communication that seems to have the best results from the kids.
Just like quantity time is still better than quality time.
No, I don't buy that, but that's probably true, even if I don't buy it.
If you have enough
But
quantity
imagine
time,
how
there
you
will
combine the
be.
two.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah,
But that
Have a quantity of
breaks
quality.
the seesaw.
right.
Mhm.
It's balance. Yeah.
Very
So
good.
our goal for this class is to talk about purposeful parenting, having a goal in mind, knowing what you as parents want the outcome to be. Because whatever you choose or don't choose, what the outcome will be is what you're going to get. And you need to know ahead of time. Do I want my 20-something-year-old living with me? Do I want to still be washing my 30-year-old's clothes? And if you don't, you need to know how you're going to get there so that's not going to happen. So you need a roadmap. The kids don't. The kids are going to follow your path. So you need to know. So we're going to talk about purposeful parenting. We're going to talk about parenting with an end goal. Because that's where you are going to be the most successful, and you create within that child all the skills they need for what you're heading them towards. So if your goal is that by the time they're 18 and you're ready to launch them off to university, technical school, or
Military.
just out the door, military, whatever, you know you've done enough to equip them to be ready for that, whatever it is. So that is our goal for what we're going to do in this class. Now, that's our plan. But we know you came here with something that you wanted. And so we want to hear from you as well, because yes, we have our plan, but our plan is to teach you and to guide you and to give you what you need. And we don't know what that is necessarily. So there again, put your thinking caps on and be thinking about what you hope to gain from this class. And we'll come back to that in a moment.
Well, let me make it easier for you. Let's say y'all are going to invest 7 Wednesday nights, which is how many we have to teach here, into coming here and setting and putting up with us. At the end of those 7 class sessions, what one thing do you really hope you have that you don't have right now? Come up with just one thing. Yes, sir.
It's, I don't know what to say this, but you never know what God would do to you in the future. So, what I would say is, I'm not expecting it, because I'm taking my time by what I'm gonna say, but most majority kids
Mhm.
and how to raise them.
Okay. We're planning to touch on that. So good.
You have minds on the board, number one, how to become a more effective communicator
Okay.
when dealing with a teenager. I found myself talking at him a lot of times, not to him, and that's not going over too well. I'm missing the mark. I want to be more engaging as a mom, as a communicator.
Okay,
We're probably going to touch on that in 3 different lessons, little bits of it. But part of it is the fact that you're a mom dealing with a son.
Yes.
As
If
a
you were a
teen.
mom dealing with a daughter, you'd probably find yourself more effective.
Okay.
If you were a dad dealing with a son, you'd probably find yourself more
Yes,
effective.
because Dad is telling me, I don't have those issues. He's very attentive when Dad tells him to do something. It's like, oh, okay. Mom is like, I'm having to tell him 2 or 3 times. It's like, you've already told me that. But if I told you, why aren't you not
Yeah,
doing the things that I need for you to do?
yeah. There is a specific way you need to tell him. And we're going to
Yes.
cover that,
Thank you.
which is pretty much universal for moms dealing with sons
Okay,
who are over 12.
right.
Under 12, you can deal with it differently.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And another one, I like the hers, so that was good. Most definitely, we're gonna have to learn how to discipline them.
Yeah, that's usually one of the things we hear. And, you know, a third of these verses that we read talked about discipline.
yeah.
A couple of them talked about discipline methods. Most of them did not. And there's a real difference between discipline and discipline methods. And we're going to get into that pretty quick. In 2 lessons, I think. They're in about 2 weeks. We're probably going to jump into that. And then have a couple little elements of it further on.
Okay,
Andy?
I guess mine would be how to have proper expectations of raising your kids. Because before I became a parent, I knew exactly how my kids were gonna turn out.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't happened that way.
yeah.
I've got a story for you. And I think the moral of the story is don't tell people how it's going to be, because the Lord will prove you wrong.
Every time.
But our children were small, and I thought were good, basically. But they're kind of a little rambunctious, as children are supposed to be. And we were at a family reunion, and my brother, who was several years younger than me, got frustrated at my daughter, who actually did something I told her to do, but I didn't think she'd really do it. And he got all upset with her. And he said, I have a dog that is better behaved than your children. When I have children, my children will obey me just like my dog does.
Wow.
And we've had so much fun with that over the years. Now, I will tell you what he told her to do. His brother, who was still a teenager, had on white jeans.
Oh, wow.
And our daughter had walked up because somebody had given her some yummy, sweet, yummy, gooey, ugly,
It's chocolate
nasty
cake.
thing, Aunt Virginia's chocolate cake. And she said, where do I wipe my hands, basically? And he said, well, right there's Uncle Perry's leg. And she did.
Wow.
So it was pretty bad.
The rest of the family thought it was hilarious.
He did not.
No.
We've had revenge. I had to hold his 5-year-old daughter down in the shower to clean her later because she was so well disciplined. We had a lot of fun. Yeah. Yes. Proper expectations are awesome because also they change. You have an expectation when they're this size and then they're this size, and those expectations change. And just like in marriage, if we don't communicate what expectations are, they can't meet them because they don't know.
And we're gonna have a whole class just on what are realistic expectations at different stages. Because one of the very frustrating things for the whole family is when you expect a 3 or 4-year-old to act like a 14 or 15-year-old. They're not going to. They're not capable of that. And when they're expected to have enough self-control, when they don't, they haven't learned it, and in some cases, they're not physically capable of having the degree of control that the parents would really like for them to have. So we have to learn what's realistic expectation.
What else?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Sorry. Purpose for me is really important. Some of you guys know, we're opening to adopt from foster care.
Mm-hmm.
So our kids might be 7 or 8 when they come to us, and we only have half the time. So really having a purpose
Good.
is important for us.
We are definitely gonna hit that. All throughout every lesson, there will be something about that. But we will talk specifically towards that.
But definitely get training before you adopt,
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah, we're.
Because what you will get are children with reactive attachment disorder. They have a whole lot more problems than the normal child, and you do have less time to train them than the normal child. And they need more love than the normal child. So,
Where was my drink?
Right? On the job.
we have an expert over here.
Yes,
though.
you do.
This is an expert.
Yes, you made it look easy.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mom.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Oh, ours is along the same lines. We're working toward opening up our home for fostering again. And last round of fostering showed us we really don't know what we're doing with parenting as much as we thought we did.
Okay.
And so that kind of like turned our worlds upside down. So we are open to all kinds of fostering and parenting advice, because there's lots of different ways to parent and all kids are different.
Yeah.
So our strategy with our girls doesn't necessarily work with anybody else who comes in, so we have to be open to all kinds of parenting.
And I'm really glad you said it that way.
Yeah.
Because even among your girls, you parent them each slightly different.
Right.
Because kids are just different. And so learning that you need to be adjustable because they are. Yeah, we will definitely be addressing
Actually, we've
that.
got 2 different, of the 7, we have 2 different classes set aside for looking at the differences in parenting and what I think of as custom parenting. Not a one-size-fits-all, because I don't believe that. Although you can find all kinds of parenting books and buy, and this is the way to raise kids. And I know that worked for the person that wrote the book on one of their children. That's the best you can say, because there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all. And we're going to jump into some of this next week when we start looking at the realistic differences, the things that means you cannot raise all your kids exactly the same way. You just can't, by design. And then we'll have another one when we look at the standard ways of parenting, and then suggest that most of the standard ways of parenting work, but they work differently for different kids and they work better at different ages. So those are 2 different lessons that we're going to look at.
Okay? Anybody else?
Yeah, so far we're tracking with y'all, but y'all keep telling us what you need in case if we don't have something planned and you need it, we can work it in.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and say, I know Christy specifically has already asked about teens.
Mhm.
It'll be there.
Yeah, we got a whole lesson just on teens.
It'll be there.
Basically surviving teens.
Yeah.
How about how to get a 4-year-old to go to bed?
What, and this
You're on
might
your
come
own.
in with my comment just now, it's like everything, you kept saying something about discipline, and everybody keeps thinking discipline is in like a punishment and all sort of kind of stuff. Discipline is, I see it as in what the military does for you.
Right.
It is structured, it is on
Right.
time, it is
Right.
you do this,
Right.
you do this, you do this.
Right.
And whenever you go, it's ready for nighttime, you actually go up there, we take our baths, we do the baths the same way, you actually go in, you actually do your toothbrush and stuff, you make sure you lift the lid on the toilet before you go, you shut it back down after you're done. There's structure on every one of them, and what's really funny is once you have done it enough, they will actually remind you that you left something out. Or you let them get by with it and
Right.
they actually will tell you about
Right.
that.
Right, and that is the difference between discipline, which we've talked about, and punishment, which we've not. And it does come with structure.
Yeah, what we're gonna end up advocating is that discipline is for the purpose of instilling discipline. Again, kind of like with the military.
Self-control.
Yeah. When you have an adult, you have a self-controlled adult that if they know what the right thing is to do, they're able to make themselves do it. They don't need their parent around still making them do it. So that's what I'm going to advocate and hopefully try to encourage y'all to go with. Punishment is just a family of techniques of trying to instill discipline. There's all kinds of techniques to instill discipline. And they work in lots of different situations and they change as a child grows up. But the end result is supposed to be a disciplined child that does not need your discipline at all. Yes, sir.
And, you know, it's important for like kids that's coming up in the world to have discipline, because without that, everything you tell them to do, they go left. I want to do. They would. Then it makes it'd be messed up if you have kids when you say if you have kids when you're 30, and you know they still disrespect you when you're 35. That's not good.
Mhm.
That's why it's important.
Yeah, it's not good when the mom calls the college student to say, it's 8 o'clock, you need to get up out of bed.
Yes.
That happens.
Or situations I know of where the mom calls their 30-year-old every morning to wake them up so they go to work. And that's actually not an unusual thing.
Like we've had those conversations in our offices. Okay, in the old classes, back in the day when we first started all this stuff, we talked about challenges like terrible twos and rebellious teenagers. But now we have bigger challenges even than that. We have pornography, the issues of social media, how much screen time should your kid, when I was a kid, the screen time was 1 hour in the afternoons and about 3 hours on a Saturday. And it was black and white when I started. So all these things have so greatly changed, and the issues and the challenges that you face as parents are so different even than our kids, because you know how rapidly it's changed just since you were a kid. And some of y'all, most of y'all, are younger than our kids. So we know that difference. So we're going to try as well to introduce some concepts that go along with that to help you with these challenges, because that is part of the discipline. That's part of the purpose. That's part of how you parent as well, is all wrapped up in those new challenges that you're facing. Okay, how are we doing on time? I'm the timekeeper and I didn't wear a watch.
We got 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes. That's awesome. Do you want to use one of your illustrations or?
I'll save it till next week.
Okay, so now you get your homework then, because you got 2 minutes. You want to tell them? Because you always
We need to
remember.
write it down.
You write it down. Because I never remember this. You're going to have to go on the internet. Oh, now I know. So what we want you to do is we want you, each one of you, mom, dad, both, we want both people to go on the humanmetrics.com site, and we want you to take the Myers-Briggs.
I can tell you mine right now.
That's awesome. And the reason is, next week, we're gonna look at personality, birth order. We're gonna look at, what am I leaving out? Birth order,
Learning
personality,
style.
learning style. We're gonna look at all, and gender difference, maybe. That sometimes gets shoved to the end and we don't get to it to the next time. But we're gonna look at that in regards to you guys, and then what will that mean and how you parent your kids, who, by the way, have all their own things, right? So we're going to look at that next week. But we want you to know what yours is before you come in here.
So if
Okay.
you go to this site, they've got several different assessments. It's free. If you're spending any money, you click the wrong thing. Okay? Now, after you do it, they're going to try to sell you all kinds of things. You don't need to do that. Bring it in here, and we'll give you free what they would sell you. You want to click on the little button that says personality test. That's going to talk about it. And then beside it, there's a little button that says take a personality test. Click on that. It'll take you about 15 minutes. There are, I believe, 84 questions. Again, it should only take 15 minutes. Don't think about any of them. Give your first response. When you finish, it will give you a 4-letter code, that's your personality, and a percentage for each one of those letters. Print it out or write it down, bring it with you when you come to class next week. And we'll spend the first 15 minutes playing around with this. Well, I better stop there.
Yeah, the bell rang, so there's.
Oh, it did?
Yes, I heard it.
Can you do the whole thing on your phone?
You can do the whole thing on your phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've
I
not
just pulled
tried
it up, you can.
Yeah, good.
Okay. I don't know
Awesome.
how you print it out though.
Well, he doesn't have to if it's on his phone, he's got it.
Okay.
He's there, yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. See you next week. We hope.